You have to imagine that living in a 300-year-old castle with over 1,045 square meters or 11,000 square feet of floor space, you're going to have to deal with a myriad of flooring solutions that have been implemented over the centuries. Some flooring is in great shape, and some leave much to be desired. For example, this floor is original and located in the church library wing of the castle. You just can't get pieces of wood like this that are this long, this wide, and this thick. This floor is located on the first floor hallway. They went through a rough phase where woodworms had a go at them, but they're stable now. This lovely parquet floor is in my office. We have tiles on the ground floor that are a mix of original tiles and newer tiles. Believe it or not, we even have carpeting. This is our master bathroom. We're obviously going to replace this when we renovate this room. The floor I'm dealing with today is located in our downstairs bedroom. It's not original, it's probably put in the 80s. And while the stuff to the right here looks fine, all these horizontal boards, where my problem is on this side. As you can see, there's been some massive water damage. Not sure when that occurred. You can see that the boards have actually sunk because they've lost their supports underneath. And when you step on them, these boards just flex. There's nothing underneath them. This hole, believe it or not, is where the safe was sitting. We moved it because I was afraid it was going to fall through this floor. They gave me opportunity then to dig out the area here, and you can see that the wood is just totally rotted, water damaged. And what was really interesting is that there is a support beam that is supposed to run this way, and I think it runs along the entire length of here. It's simply disintegrated. The only thing left is this pin that you see here, and there's another pin over here, and I think that's the only thing that's holding these boards up, is that they're all lying on these rows of pins, which I suspect are running the entire length of this floor. So what I'm going to have to do is pull up all of these boards very carefully, because I need to reuse them and put them back into place when I'm done. I don't want to buy new wood if I can avoid it. And then try to determine what caused the initial problem in the first place. Once I know that, then I can figure out how to fix it.
As I suspected, it's pretty craptastic under here. That board I was talking about that was supporting this edge here, you can see there's nothing left. It's literally falling apart. Same with all of these supports here. They're dry rotted. The only good thing here is that I'm not seeing any moisture, but boy, I don't know what event caused that much damage along this entire length.
Here's the underside floor in its full glory. You can tell that every single piece of wood that was underneath this floor has dry rotted away. There was no support at all short of those bolts that were holding the wood planks up. Whatever happened here, a lot of water got in and it was allowed to stay for a long period of time. There's a lot of fungus on all of the wood, on the styrofoam, and I realized, of course, after the fact, hey, you should probably wear a mask. I removed all of the old wood, the styrofoam, the vapor barrier, the molding, and the steel bolts that were holding the floor up. I then doused this whole area with an antifungal, anti-mold spray and squirted in builder's foam in the seam between the floor and the wall to fill in some of the big gaps that still existed there. Well, my overly optimistic plan to reuse the planks to repair the floor has come to an end. Every single plank was rotted and corroded like this underneath. I can't use them. I was able to salvage these few pieces, which I can use to repair some of the corner positions, but I'm going to have to do something totally different to replace the floor itself. Making repairs in a castle is often like making repairs on a boat. There are regular floors and then there are castle floors. This is solid spruce. Each plank was custom made for this room and interlocked together. For me to, one, find this material, and two, have somebody custom make each one of these planks would cost me a fortune. So what I'm going to do instead is find some sort of engineered wood solution that mimics this closely, but won't cost me a fortune, and I can actually get my hands on today. After a couple days of trial and error, I finally got the vapor barrier installed, the new support studs in place, and the styrofoam fitted in. The next step is to put in the subflooring, and that's going to be fun because there are no right angles along that wall, so each piece is going to have to be custom fit. Right, so the subflooring has been installed, and the first layer of underlayment has been put in place. That's that gray material you see, and you can see a sample of the wood floor we're actually going to install.
What's interesting is when you actually clean off the grime and the whitewash of the original floor, it actually matches pretty closely in color, and the level of imperfections in the new floor seems to match pretty closely what you see in the original floor. So I'm pretty happy with that. The next step is to actually install these planks. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I've never done it before, but I think I know how to do it. So it's going to be a little bit of trial and error and just-in-time learning.
Besides the fact that I have no true right angles to work off of and that some of these walls are curved, my biggest challenge is to be mounting these baseboards to the wall. These walls are incredibly old and it's really hard to predict what you're going to hit behind them. It's either brick or mortar, or I even hit concrete from patchwork that's been done over the decades. My challenge is I need this to stay really close to the floor, and typically I've used these anchor screws. Basically, you drill a hole, you insert this anchor, you screw in your screw at the top, and as it goes in, those ends expand, and that's what allows the screw to hold whatever you are trying to mount to the wall. The challenge I've always had is that as you drill bigger holes, and depending on what's behind the wall, these anchors have a tendency to wander. They either go left or right, up or down, or sometimes at really odd angles, so it's really hard to keep the hole where you intended it to be. So instead, we're going to try something different. These are masonry nails. If you look at them, they have these, they're kind of ridged and they're hardened steel. So the idea here is that you drill a small hole straight in, and I've had a lot more luck drilling small holes straight in, and then you take these nails and you hammer in whatever you're trying to hold against the wall. So I have high hopes for this. Let's see how these work out. What is wrong with this picture? This is a classic example of the measure twice, cut once principle. This was my last piece of baseboard. I'd measured it already and cut the angles, and then had to clear some debris from this corner to get that joint to fit a little tighter. And I failed to remeasure to confirm that the length was still true. So now I've got this massive gap. That was my last piece of baseboard material, so I have to go buy some new baseboard. So close, yet so far. The baseboards have been installed, and I am now officially calling this project done. Those masonry nails I used worked beautifully. They went in true every time and kept the baseboards nice and tight to the floor. Probably the most time-consuming part of this, well, actually, was two things. One was determining what materials I needed to use, what they're called in German, and then trying to find out where to buy them. The second part was dealing with these baseboards. Not only are these walls not straight and true horizontally, they're also vertically not straight. So for example, this wall actually bows this way and also bows in this way. So it made making these angle cuts on the baseboard really, really challenging, but I finally got through it, and now time to move on to my next project. Approximately 2 weeks after I finished installing the floor, we experienced one of the worst storms we've ever had since we moved here. We had extremely high winds and heavy rains that pushed water through every window facing to the west and south. That includes the double doors down on the first floor next to the room I just renovated, as well as the windows above the new floors that I just put in. Luckily, we were here to mop it up before any serious damage could occur, but it did get me to thinking. Could this be how so much moisture was introduced under the old floors? And if so, is it not possible that if the water was allowed to settle and the room was cold, that the fungus and wood rot could grow? This castle has experienced many periods of inactivity, and isn't it possible that a couple events like this could be the root cause? What is the true cause? We may never know.